everyone. Very good afternoon. Okay, so I have actually went through the video recordings happened so far, and I see that the next section that was in the line was functions. So I thought I will start with that. Okay, so I assume whoever is attending the session is actually practicing whatever you have learned so far. If you are not doing that, you should immediately start doing that. Otherwise, going further will not be of any help. So just attending the session is not at all going to help. So if you have not started practicing, like either through your Visual Studio Code or Jupyter notebook, I strongly recommend that you immediately start with doing hands-on with what you're learning. So having said that, I will jump into functions. At the end of the session, I'm going to give you some exercises, which I want everyone to go back and do that and come back for the next session. Because this is just to ensure that you are able to understand whatever you've learned so far, and you are able to get going with the hands-on practicing. I'll give around 10 exercises. You can do whatever you can. Everything will be simple things. Okay, so we will jump into functions now. So let me share my screen. Okay, so I've created a Jupyter notebook with all the things that I'm going to cover today. And first thing is simple function. So what is a function? You will be using functions in your whatever you are working in currently. Any programming language has its functions. So in Python, we will be defining a function with a keyword called a def, and that will be followed by the function name, and then you will give a parenthesis. So it is like this: def, and let's say we want to give a function name as greet, and then you will be giving a parenthesis with a colon, and immediately once you press enter, you will see that next line is intended. So that means that anything within that function after the function definition coming inside that will be intended by a tab. So let's do a simple print statement. Let's say hello world. Let's execute this. So this is not going to do anything because it is just a function. We have defined a function, we have not executed it. So it just tells that there is a function called greet, and when you execute it, it is going to print hello world. So now let's execute this function. Executing is very easy. Just give the function name on a new line and do a shift enter. It's going to execute and it's going to print hello world. So this greet function is executed, and you can see this printed. Now what more can we do? So we can pass arguments, we can pass parameters as arguments, and we can use that arguments in your function. So let's now do a copy the same thing, paste it here. So now in this case, I'm going to pass a parameter called name, and this is going to be okay. I need to use that name here instead of word. Let me say I'm going to say like print hello plus the name I'm passing plus an exclamatory mark like this. Okay. So now let me execute this. Now this is defined. Let me call this function. I'm calling this function. I'm not passing anything. Let's see what's happening. That's saying, your greet function is missing one required positional argument name. So we need to pass. If we have defined the function with a name with some parameters, we are supposed to pass that parameter, right? So let's pass a parameter here. So how do we pass the parameter? We just put it inside the brackets, parenthesis, and we can put any name here. So let me put my name here. So I'm saying greet Prem. Now let me execute. It says hello Prem. So this parameter Prem is being passed to the name parameter on the greet function, and that goes into the print statement. Prints. It's that simple. Okay. Now we have seen the situation where if we don't pass anything, it's going to fail. So to avoid the situation, we can do a default on the parameters. So let's copy paste this entire line like this, right? Now and in name, let's say to provide a default, in the function definition, we can say name is equal to this time let's say world. So what it is going to say is if you are passing a parameter when you're calling, it's going to take that. If you're not passing anything, it's not going to fail. It's just going to take the default value and do that. Okay. So let's execute this and let's call this parameter now. So I'm calling with greet with name as a name first. It's taking my name. It's ignoring what is the default. Let's say I call this function without anything. Now it's not going to fail. It's just going to take the default and give it to you. So that is the passing arguments and parameters. Any questions until this point?
No.
Okay. Okay, so let's see. This is useful. We have a function. We are able to, do something within that. But many a times we will need to return something for the functions, right? So that is why we use functions. We will pass some data, get some value back. So that is where return values are helpful. So how can we, return something in a function? Let's do, some function. Okay, let's define add numbers. Add numbers is my function name, and probably I will need two numbers. Let's say a and b are my two numbers, and I will calculate the sum is equal to a plus b. I can return it by saying return sum. Okay, so this is the function definition now. Let's say I will be, you know, uh, let's say results is equal to, I'm going to call this function add numbers, and now I want to pass 3 comma 4. So now it is going to return something back, that is the sum, and that's going to be stored in the result. Let's call it result. And that result, okay, now it's the result is available. Let's print the result and see that's going to be 7. So whatever has returned is stored in the results variable, and you are able to see that. So simply you can return anything that you want. Okay. Now another point here is variables. So we are using variables inside the function. We may be using variables outside the function. So there are two types of variables here when it comes to functions: local variables and global variables. Local variables are something that is assigned inside. If you are defining a variable within a function, that will be applicable only for that function. You cannot use that variable inside. So let's say we are going to define one function and call it my function, and let's say I will define a variable called my local variable, and let's say this is a local variable. So this is the function, right? And say we will print it here within the function. Print my local variable. That will, and we will call this function. Call this function. This is going to print the value because the print is happening within this. So my local variable value is available and it is printing. Let's say I'm going to do like this. My local variable, I'm going to print outside of this definition. Let's say what's happening, and it's going to say my local variable is not defined. So you don't have this available outside this function. So if you need this, it has to be a global variable. Okay, yeah. Let's go to the global variables. Let's say in this case we are going to do the same thing. We will do the definition here, but before this, let's do let's define global variable. My global variable, this is happening outside the function. You can see that. So this is a global variable, and here we will replace it. We will not do anything. We can just print it within the function. Okay, so this is going to be printing within the function, and let's execute this. And first we will just call the function and print it. Print my function. We are just calling this, and yeah, so it's printing this function. This print statement is executed. I'm not sure why none is coming. Maybe something else. Okay. Now, if I want to print this my global variable, now you can see that that value will be available because it is defined outside the function. So it is this scope is global. So you are able to access this variable even in any line within the function and outside the function as well. So that is with respect to scope of variables. So this is going to be a small session, guys. Okay, everything with respect to how you can execute a function, how what are the things that you need to consider for writing functions, and the exercise is going to train you on writing different functions for different use cases. So I believe that will be very helpful for you. Let's move on to the next one. Any questions until this point? Okay. So now there are some built-in functions which you already know. Any language there will be built-in functions. So you can actually call built-in functions within functions and all. Some functions, built-in functions here are like print, length, max, min, sorted. These are some of the built-in functions. They are also called uh, they are also called normal functions only. Let's say print, you already know. Hi. So and that prints. Let's say we have a my text variable, and that says okay, this is a Python course, and let's use the length function for this my text. Okay, so just by giving length of my text, it's going to give you the total length of the text, right? And there is something on the min and max. Min and max are for list values. Let's say we have a my list. Okay, let's say 40, 30, like 20, 40, 60, uh, 35. In this, if you want to see the maximum value, you can use like max of my list. So these are just as samples. There are many functions like this available. You can read through the documentation. Based on what you need, you will find. Um, so it gives 60. Likewise, you can use a min. It gives 20. Let's say there is something called sorted. So it's going to give you a sorted list, and it says okay 20, 30, 35, 40, and 60. So these are some functions. This is how you can use them. Um, if you want to know what more is available, I think in the first session, Raja was telling about the help function that you can use to see what are all the different functions available and read about that. So you can use that. Mm, yep, that's it about this functions for today. Any questions until this point? Okay. So now let's go to exercises. This is going to be your, to continue further. I think it is very important you do this. So that's why I wanted to keep this session very short, and you can utilize the time for doing hands-on on these things, and get ready for the next session. So from the next session, probably we will cover the remaining part, which will be part of the AI course. I'm yet to plan for that, but let's see how we can go about it. Okay, these are simple things. Okay, you can if you already have Jupyter notebook, just open that and add a new column. Sorry, add a new field and start typing your code. You can verify that. You can share your responses back to me. I can validate. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. I can help you. But this should be pretty straightforward, just to ensure that you are able to do, you are actually coding Python. Okay. Okay. I will be sharing this with you all. Kavita, probably I can, I need your help in checking if there is any help needed for people, and get this done as much as possible by the next call. Yeah. Thanks, everyone.